I thought that you would be flattered, Sophia Burns said in a huff as she threw her dark red scarf around her neck and walked off camera. Sophia was 35 years old and had medium brown, voluminous hair and hazel green eyes. She was a former beauty queen who only won one pageant in her early 20s, but she still carried herself as though she were wearing a crown. Eric Turner gave Sophia an understated look. He turned towards the teleprompter for his next line. He had once again stayed out too late at a B-list party. Eric squinted and then fumbled with his line. Eric had dark cherry brown hair that he wore combed straight back and light golden brown eyes. He was a little arrogant at times, but deep down inside, he was a pretty kind guy. "You should be the one who is flattered, Maureen," Eric shouted as he pointed his finger in the air and looked in the direction that Sophia's character, Maureen Monroe, had gone. "Cut!" Alex, standing, shouted from the director's chair. Alex was the director of As the Table Turns. He was 30 years old and had black hair and blue eyes. "Eric, our viewers aren't going to be very happy if they see you squinting to read your lines, nor will they be pleased if you trip over your lines. We are scheduled to do a live show in less than 2 weeks." Alex stood up. "Everyone take 5. This is for tomorrow's taping. We won't even be using this script for the live show," Eric said quickly. Peter Rimmings rolled his eyes. He was waiting for his cue to come on camera. He was standing to the side of the set with his arms crossed. Peter was 29 years old. He had dark blonde hair and blue eyes, and a well-trimmed mustache and beard. He looked at Alex as he walked by. "That's the 3rd time this week," Peter whispered. Alex gave him a cross look and kept walking. Stella Cambry was standing behind Peter. She took a step closer to him. "Peter, Alex is not one that enjoys being catered to," Stella said in a calm and slow manner. Peter turned and looked at Stella. She was 25 years old, and she was the youngest of the cast members of As the Table Turns, a soap opera that was streamed online Monday through Friday. Stella had dark brown, slightly wavy hair that went just past her shoulders, and very dark brown eyes. She had a need to tell people what to do. "Stella, there are some things that you need to learn to do in life, and correcting me is not one of them," Peter said curtly as he looked down at Stella. Peter was 6 foot 1 inches tall, and Stella was 5 foot 4 inches tall. Stella cocked her head to the side and looked blankly at Peter. Peter gave her a quick nod as if to say, "Conversation over." He walked away from Stella, and then he walked quickly down the hall to the lounge that was on the set. Stella crossed her arms and looked around. Suddenly, she felt someone's eyes upon her. She turned and looked. It was the new girl that no one liked, Rain Sconce. Rain was 26 years old and had thick, wavy red hair and hazel green eyes with a touch of brown in them. She was quiet and had a habit of watching what everyone was doing, and she usually wore a look of disapproval. Alex had told the casting director, Scott Saunders, that Rain was too pretty for the show. Stella happened to overhear the conversation and disliked Rain ever since. As Stella told the rest of the cast what Alex said, they disliked Rain too. Everyone except Sarah Burns, Sophia Burns' younger sister. She felt that Rain would be good for the show. Sarah was 32 years old, had reddish brown hair with dark blonde highlights and light brown hazel eyes. As the Table Turns, Episode 2, Drama on the Set. The next day. "Okay, who is the wise guy that put these in my dressing room?" Eric asked with a displeased look on his face as he walked into the cast lounge. The whole cast of As the Table Turns was there, seated at different tables. Sophia and Sarah, who were seated at the table closest to the refrigerator, looked up at Eric for a moment and quickly went back to their conversation. Peter, who had been reading a newspaper that he had been holding up in front of him, folded in the left side of the newspaper and looked at the reading glasses that Eric was holding in his hand. Eric looked over at Peter. I don't know, but I think it is probably not a prank, Peter said. Eric made a face and then looked at everyone else in the room. Rain was leaning on her hand and had her elbow on the table. She was reading a magazine. Rain looked at the glasses and then gave Eric a serious look before going back to reading her magazine. Eric's anger was suddenly quenched. What he thought had been a mean prank may have been Rain trying to save his job. Stella got up from where she had been seated on the dark yellow couch at the far right side of the lounge, walked towards the door, and looked at Eric as she passed by him. She looked at the glasses and then at Eric and calmly said, "Contacts." Eric looked at Stella and then back over at Rain, who was looking at him intently. Eric gave her a quick and subtle nod and then put the glasses in his left suit jacket pocket. He went over to the coffee pot, took out a clean mug from the cabinet, and poured himself a hot cup of coffee. He knew that he needed to wear glasses to read his lines and thought that glasses might add a sense of sophistication to his character, but he was hesitant to bring it up to Alex. He had never thought of going to an eye doctor and getting a prescription for contacts. He felt sheepish for not thinking about getting contacts when he first started having trouble reading his lines. Eric added creamer to his coffee, stirred it 3 times with a spoon that had been sitting on the counter, and then went back to his dressing room and called his eye doctor for an appointment. Rain watched Eric leave. She smiled softly and then looked at the clock on the wall. It was almost time to be on the set. She closed the magazine that she was reading and then went to her dressing room to prep. Once everyone was on set, they took their places for the next scene that was to be filmed and waited for Alex, who seemed to be missing from the set. "Where's Alex?" Eric finally asked. Sophia looked at Eric and shrugged her shoulders. Peter looked around and then at Eric and shrugged his shoulders. Stella looked at the empty director's chair and said, "Should someone check his office?" Peter looked at Stella and said, "He may be on an important call. Maybe it's best not to disturb him." Stella gave Peter a squinty-eyed look. "Maybe something happened to him," Sophia said. Peter gave Sophia a blank look. Eric got a look of concern on his face, but was unwilling to risk going to Alex's office and interrupting an important phone call or meeting. "Has anyone seen his car?" Sarah asked, trying to be helpful. Peter shook his head and said, "I don't remember seeing it in his parking space." Eric looked at Peter with a slightly confused look. "I thought that I saw it there when I got here at 6 this morning." "Maybe he never left last night," Rain said quietly. Peter turned his head quickly and looked at Rain. "What would you know about that?" he asked. Rain crossed her arms, looked at Peter, and gave him a dirty look. "I will go to his office," Sophia said in an exasperated tone of voice as she hurried off the set with everyone watching her.